guys, how you doing? Welcome back to part 2 of my sleep series with my little girl Bella. She is my whole world and she does not sleep through the night. She still wakes up one time for a feed, generally speaking. Sometimes it is more if she's teething or going through something like that. This is just my experience with her and how we've got her to only do one wake up as opposed to so many more. So keep watching guys to find out more. So when we got in contact with the sleep therapist, they wanted to know our whole routine in a 24-hour period with Bella, just so they could have an idea of what we were doing, what we could improve on, and where they needed to work with us to get her to sleep better. And I gotta tell you, it was a very eye-opening experience. Both Matt and I went into it not thinking it would go well, more so because we didn't know how it was gonna go. And I kind of felt like we had failed her as parents because we couldn't get her to sleep, and just having somebody else, I guess, not articulate that, but it kind of made me feel like that. Some of the points that were raised, that we weren't doing the best for Bella, that was kind of hard to take. I think we definitely needed it though, and while there's been some things that we did implement, there's been other things that we disagreed with and we haven't done, and we've stuck to what we were doing. Maybe if we did implement everything, she might sleep through the night, but for us, we're not comfortable doing that, so this is what works for us. I'm happy to still get up with Bella however many times overnight she needs. Generally, I'm hoping it's just one, but you know, if that's what she needs and she still needs a feed or something like that, I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna say no. And the times where it's really tough, I know that I've got Matt's support and he will get up with me too. So when we spoke to the sleep therapist, the first thing she said, which was just mind-blowing to us, was that sleep is biological. It is not emotional. We as human beings need sleep to survive. For us, it was mind-blowing, but for other people, it might not be, because maybe you know that already. But for us, being in the state of mind that we were in, having someone say that to us was just like, holy moly, like, we've been looking at this the complete wrong way. You need to sleep. Your body needs to recharge, and you can't not sleep. Everyone has to sleep. So why were we overthinking it? To start off like that, we were like, this is actually going to be a good thing. And the two things that the sleep therapist touched on the most were tummy and timings. So was Bub full, and the timings that they're awake and asleep throughout the day. You know, I've read about it and it's said in a lot of the apps, but for us, it was a little bit of a game changer because we did change the foods that she was eating, and I have done a lot of different experimenting with the time she's been up and the time she's been down. Tell me in terms of what foods she was eating. By that stage, she wasn't eating a lot of meats. She was eating a few meats, but she also was not really eating any carbs either. She was mainly eating fruit and veg with a bit of meat. So I've changed that. So brekkie will generally be fruit or porridge or an omelette or something like that. Lunch and dinner, she will have a type of protein and a type of carb at both meals and some veg. And then for dessert, she'll have fruit as well. And it's made a massive difference. So from 4 months, baby's iron stores start to deplete. And so that's why typically you can start introducing solids from that stage, pureed solids. While I had introduced food from 4.5 months, I wasn't introducing a lot of foods that she was needing in terms of what her body was starting to drop off from the newborn stages. So researching into a bit of that made a huge difference, and just adding a bit of protein, adding some carbs was massive. Like I said, she's still breastfed. I feed her between half an hour and an hour before she has a solid meal. I got really confused as to when I was meant to breastfeed her and then feed her solids. So I kind of just went off gut. So tummy being full is a massive one, and we've noticed a huge difference just giving her protein, carbs and some fruit and veg. And then timing. So the timings that she's awake. So I didn't go with what the sleep therapist said in the end. I went off my gut instead, and that has been more beneficial for us. So again, take what you will with a grain of salt. This is what's working for us. It may not work for you, and it may work for you. At about 6 months, the sleep therapist said that she shouldn't be awake for more than an hour and a half to 2 hours, and she was awake for much longer than that. So I played around with that quite a bit, and I got really stickler about it. Like, we would record the time we put her down, the time she fell asleep, the time she woke up. They also said that she should be in the cot for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and if she wakes, sort of just leave her. And I know after one sleep cycle, there were times where I'm like, she's not going to go to sleep again. I know what she's like. So we would leave her for a bit, and it just, yeah, she wasn't going to fall asleep, and that's fine. I'm happy to pull her out. That was against what the sleep therapist said, but for us, that's what worked. So now at 8 months, I keep her awake for 2.5 hours. I don't bring that forward. I keep it at the 2.5 hours. It's working really well for us at the moment. The only time she's awake longer than 2.5 hours is in the afternoon. So the sleep therapist said that if they're too tired, it's because they've got too much adrenaline going through them. So that is why when you put Bub down, they can just cry because they've got all this adrenaline and stuff going through them that they need to just get out. So their way of doing that is by crying. We think that there's an emotional attachment with crying as adults, so we go in to stop them from crying. So in a way, it was like every time she cried, we'd go pick her up and cuddle her. It was like we were rescuing her from her cot. That's how it was described to us from the therapist. So we were advised not to pick her up, just to pat her, if anything, every 15 minutes and then leave. That was using the cry it out method. I think that's what it's called. It is not easy, and I was quite against it, but Matt and I talked about it a lot and decided to give it a crack because we'd been up for 3 hours every night for I don't know how many months. It was really hard. It was like listening to her crying was just, oh, it was so sad. But it was more painful for me than her. And I think the first night she cried for about 35 minutes and it progressively went down. Now when we put her to bed, she might cry, it's more of a whinge for 30 seconds if that. Most of the time when we put her to bed, she just goes to bed without a noise and is asleep generally within 4 minutes, which is massive because it was not like that previously. And you know, a lot of people are against the cried out method, and I certainly was prior to this, and it's not an easy thing to do to get your baby to go to sleep that way, but for us it has worked. And it only took about a week for her to get into that routine of us not coming in and knowing that we weren't going to come in, and if we were going to come in, it was only to pat her, it wasn't to rescue her as such from the cot. That being said, there were times where we would go and pick her up because we felt that she needed it. So generally it was around the times where she was teething, she was in a lot of pain. When she teethes, we do give her Panadol, and it doesn't always work with her. She has 4 teeth now and she's gotten 2 at a time, so she's been in a lot of pain. So we don't believe that we should not go in at that point if she's in pain and it's not worked and not pick her up. You know, it's kind of hard. So we're taking bits and pieces from all different ways to settle your baby and get them to be sleep trained. So the other thing is that we left her grow bag in the cot and we were putting her in the grow bag in the cot. The therapist said do it on the change mat. So doing it on the change mat will sort of be like, all right, you know, this is what happens here, and then from here you go to your bed. We liked that approach, so we've incorporated that. So after a bath at night time, once we've fed her and she's burped, then we'll put her onto that. The other thing is put her to sleep drowsy, not already asleep. And same with if you're patting her to settle her, don't pat her to sleep, pat her to settle her. A lot of times we were patting her and singing to her to sleep. So that was described to us as an aid to get the babies to sleep. We still use some things like that depending on what the day's been like, depending on if she's teething. But for us, this is what works, and this is the approach that we've taken on. The other thing was to bring forward her bedtime. So we were putting her down between 7 and 7:30 at night. They advised that was late. Generally like an 18-month to 2-month-old would go down around that time. We hadn't really read anything about that, but we decided to bring it forward because it would then allow Matt and I a bit of time together in the evenings that we did not have at all. We start her routine between 4:30 and 5 o'clock and she's down in bed by 6, and it's made a massive difference all round. Like to Bella's sleep, she's sleeping for longer. Matt and I are able to have a meal together at dinner time. We weren't able to do that at all, and it gives us time to do things individually at night or spend some time together as a couple, which is needed when you've got a baby. So it's been a game changer in terms of that for us, just bringing her bedtime forward. And it's still okay, I think, to have their bedtime a bit later, but they need to be able to sleep in a bit in the morning, so the room needs to be dark. We just can't have that, so bringing her bedtime forward was actually more beneficial for us in the long run. So the other thing the sleep therapist tried to get us to do was to get her to have an afternoon nap around 4 o'clock, 3:34, just to help with getting her through till dinner time. And if that didn't happen, bring forward dinner time. This was a real struggle for us. We found it too stressful and too much pressure on us, and she just didn't want to have an afternoon nap. It is the hardest nap to get babies to do, we have been told. We scrapped it, and it's worked better for us. She is awake for longer in that afternoon period. She might be awake for like 3.5 to 4 hours between when she wakes up and when she's starting to go down. We make it work and she's okay with it. She knows that's her routine now. The sleep therapist also advised us to put Bub down on her tummy. This is not going to go over well with a lot of people because of SIDS, but Bella, from as soon as she could rolled onto her stomach and slept on her stomach and still sleeps on her stomach. So now, going off what the sleep therapist told us and the research that we've done, we put Bella to sleep on her tummy. We don't put her on her back anymore. From a newborn, we did put her to sleep on her back. You can see there's literally just one flat sheet in here. She doesn't have any toys, there's no sheets on top. She goes to bed in a grow bag. If we put Bella at the bottom of the cot, she's not going to stay there. She will roll straight away. She might start up here and she will end up down there, and then she'll end up halfway through and then her head will be down here instead of her feet. She just moves the whole time throughout the night. And for us, putting her to sleep on her stomach, it works for us. And we feel comfortable enough with where she is at that she's okay on her stomach and it's not going to be a problem. And we've done that since 4 months old. Although we didn't agree with everything that the sleep therapist told us, the information she gave us was really important for us to know and break the cycle that we were doing. And while we haven't taken on everything, it's helped us just alter things to better Bella and set Bella up for better sleep and for better awake times and better developmentally. She's able to take more in during the day. What we do with Bella is not going to sit well with everybody, and that's totally okay, but it's all about what's going to work best for you and your baby and your family, and this is what works well for us. So guys, if you've got any tips on how to get your baby to sleep through the night, please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to know your thoughts, what you guys have done and what routine you guys have put in place for your little ones. You know, one day I hope that Bella does sleep through the night. I know eventually she will, but you know, we're doing okay. It works for us what's going on now. I hope you guys found this video interesting. I hope that you learned something. I hope maybe it's given you a different point of view that you wouldn't have otherwise had. If you like this video, guys, please give it a thumbs up as it really supports my channel, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I post new videos every week and I will be back next week with a new video, and we will see you then. Bye guys. Sleep is so important. I can't even tell you. I literally walk around every day with just bags, big bags under my eyes, and that's just become my signature look now that I'm a mum. I never slept well prior to Bella, and so I thought that would really help me going into motherhood, but it didn't. It's so different when you have a baby and you're actually getting up to another human being and you're feeding them or you're settling them and you're walking around the house with them. Like, you're burning energy and you're awake and there's lights, and yeah, it's very different. And that is why these are here all the time now.